Hey everybody, this is Craig, head instructor of Ottawa Swordplay, and today I want to talk to you about the other guards. We've done a series of videos on the 4 primary guards that are used in the system as we teach it, but they do frequently mention other guards in a few different contexts, and I'm just going to talk about all of them together in one video and not give too much time to them. I'm going to start out though by saying that we're not going to go too far afield with this. So the Valpurgis manuscript has a bunch of guards for sword and buckler that are related to our system. We're not going to talk about that. These are guards from the core early Liechtenauer sources. So the first one I want to talk about is Longpoint, because it is the 5th guard and it is well known and used often. And a lot of people talk about how the 4 primary guards are like the 4 elements, and Longpoint is like the 5th element. So there's certainly some truth to that. Now, what is Longpoint? Well, at its heart, Longpoint is standing with the sword extended straight out, more or less at shoulder height. We almost always do Longpoint turned into the thumb grip, which gives us some structural advantages in making it easier to keep my sword all on one side, and it also changes our reach a little bit, which makes it better. We can do Longpoint on the other side, which of course means that it's going to be a little bit shorter because our hands are crossed here. Now, there is also a 5th guard part 2, which is Sprechfenster, the speaking window. And the speaking window probably refers to the little thing you slide open in a door so that you can talk to somebody through it, which might have to do with a priest's cell, but almost all of our other guards are associated with, well, not almost all, many of our other guards are associated with fortifications, and I think it's like the door in a gate, or the little window in a gate that you would talk to somebody through. Anyway, Sprechfenster is simply Longpoint, but most of the time, Sprechfenster is left foot forward with the sword on the right, so this we use all the time as that point when I've extended my sword, but I have not actually moved my body, committed my momentum forward yet. And it's a really important part of our system. So the 5th guard, Longpoint, Sprechfenster, same thing in some ways, absolutely core to our system, but not the 4 guards. The biggest difference is Sprechfenster does not specifically give us the same kind of defensive coverage that is inherent in the other ones. Anyway. Now, the 6th guard that we get is Schranckhut. And Schranckhut is mentioned specifically in the context of the Schranckhut. And Schranckhut is done with the thumb grip, with the sword pointed out to the side and hanging towards the ground, pointed away from your lead foot. Now, a lot of people interpret it higher. You could do a high Schranckhut, but the early sources don't say anything like that, and I find it works better lower. Schranckhut is used only to describe how to do the Schranckhut, the crooked strike, the waker, which we can also do from other guards later. So in some ways it is a teaching guard. However, there are a lot of other techniques, like an absetzen, that we can do out of Schranckhut. So it is a perfectly valuable guard. It is really just a variation of Alber or Eisenfort or Pastei, our low guard, but I'll talk about that more in a minute. The 7th guard is Cron, the crown. It has an equivalent in Fiori, Corona, which I guess we don't like right now. But Cron is an interesting guard because in our sources, it is only ever described as something your opponent might do to defend themselves against your good technique and how you can beat them when they do it. It is never said that it is something that you should do. So Cron is when you bring the sword up with the point and 1 bar of the cross guard up, and you're coming up to lift an incoming sword away like this. And while it is a good, strong defense, it offers absolutely no threat which means that the attacker can immediately shift to a new threat. I do not recommend using Cron, except of course, there's always things that you can do with everything that you normally should. All right, the next one I want to talk about is Neibenhut, which is briefly mentioned, and it's not even clearly described, but it is usually interpreted as having the sword backwards, trailing behind you like this. And Neibenhut just means the near guard, but it's often treated as being similar to the tail guard from other sources. Neibenhut has its place, but it is not as strong as our normal forward Alber guards. And it is my personal belief that part of the goal of leaving it out of the core of the system was to simplify and unify the system. So there's not much that I can do from Neibenhut that I can't do from Alber. And there's a lot more that I can do from Alber that I can't do from Neibenhut. So it is not as bad as Cron, but it's kind of not one that you really need to use. The last one I'm going to mention is Wechselhut. And Wechselhut is the change guard, and it is the guard that we end up in when we do the change strike, and it is basically Alber. It does tend to be Alber or Passai or the gate pulled back, and it is used for that trick that we do where we look like we've left our head open, and then we shear off and deflect our sword out of the way. We don't need to only do it by going to it from a strike. I like to stand in this guard to invite that attack, but it is really just a variation of Alber. It is Alber for a specific use. And the truth is, Alber, which again we usually call the gate, has a lot of variations. Schranckhut is really just kind of the same thing. Neibenhut, that I just mentioned, is really just kind of the same thing. Wechselhut absolutely is. And Eisenfort, the iron gate, is sometimes described the same way as other versions of Alber. Sometimes it's described as more in the center. And then, of course, we have the later description, which is actually more like a central bore guard. But the overarching theme of the Liechtenauer system is that a lot of these things all work the same way. And so all of these variant guards are just variants. And they're either not useful or not important. And that is a key theme that we see in our sources. It's good to know about these guards. It's good to recognize what they are and to think about why you're using a guard the way you are at a given time and to use the appropriate version. But it's more important to understand that everything basically falls into the 4 main guards plus Longpoint. That's it. I hope that was informative. Have a good day.